We're being somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to maybe 50 million strong. A couple million is not bad in terms of the group, except that those small pockets of spoiled human personalities, spoiled rotten to the core, affects all of us because they're everywhere at once. And because we, lacking our spiritual and mental stature, have little or no defense against it. So we yield to it. They are virtually, parents, literally frightened of their children. Not just the boys, they're frightened of their daughters as well. So in getting to the three keys, identity, self-knowledge, and self-revelation, those are the three central thematics of who we are, what we are, and where we are. Identity, self-knowledge, and self-revelation. The concept of identity must begin with name, and where we are in terms of defining the concept name becomes expedient so that we don't make the continued assumption that we know what a word is because we use it. As a young brother threw back at me when I asked him what was his name, and he said John. And I said, well, what does John mean? He said, John means John. Well, that's not quite true. So getting to identity gets to be a matter of factualizing first, because the most important concept here is we're not dealing with belief. We're dealing with knowledge. We want to be able to know and to prove or verify the body of knowledge that we study and espouse, so that we bypass two levels. One, the conflict with believers and the problem of getting to the higher level of consciousness. You cannot get there by belief. You get there by knowing. Your higher mind will not let you in if you only believe. That's why the precept, the maxiom in the scriptures is, man, know thyself. It does not say believe thyself. Man, know the truth. It doesn't say believe the truth. Knowledge opens the higher doors of divine mind in which we live and move and have our being. The three places that we are to search and research for this identity, self-knowledge, and self-revelation is history, the Bible, I'll abbreviate this one, and the dictionary. This is a misnomer. This is a Eurocentric concept that allows those that chronicleize our records to manipulate and give the point of view of that past to their children, then matter-of-factly to ours. Yes?
How about other self-help books?
That's a very good question, and just as I wrote that, it came to me that we cannot rely upon Quran, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam for that identification. The reason why is that the system used in the Bible is not the same systematic approach to Quran, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and other books. The Kabbalistic system is an ancient Moorish system translated to what is now referred to as a, quote, Jewish or Judaic or system of Judaism. The Cushites did not have to do that. They had their pantheon of gods. The Muslim does not have a pantheon of gods. In fact, it omitted that pantheon from which they got the source of the ayats for Quran. By they, I don't mean a group of them, only two, a divine man called Gabriel, who helped another black man called Muhammad Rasulullah to structure over a given period of time the scriptural verses of the 99 chapters of Quran. Which brings me to this remembrance here. Where's my other chart? I'll get that in a minute. The concept we're looking for is not his story, and that's a valid word of lexicogrammatic writing in terms of code word. His story is exactly what the word means. Him being the European writing about someone else's records of past. What we're looking for are our records of our past. And that's a difference. Those records of our past are from our ancestral point of view, not his. Thereby, the validity of Afrocentric and Eurocentric, meaning the African's point of view, center of thinking, center of viewing self, family, community, and world, as opposed to a European view of community, family, worldview. Before the transition of Yosef Ben Yochanan, that's what 98% of colored Negro Americans had, was a European point of view. You know, Frantz Fanon coined this from the distance of Algeria when he said the only alternative that the African has is to become white. You know, but he first announced that he was not cosmically conscious and was not illumined, and it pretty much run into an intellectual blank wall in terms of where the African could go from the disadvantage point he was in at the time that Fanon was writing. This was even after the Algerian Revolution that they thought was going to be a success, and some, I guess even then, some Boudelays turned around and turned the government back over to the Illuminati. You know? So from his vantage point, I guess he was pretty much correct at that point. At that point, it seemed to be no place for the African to go, being the subservient class. Then the refound concept of the African in America, the Negro colored fellow and his clan, who discovered he's not a Negro, not colored, and not a fellow, has been virtually the greatest revelation of this millennia for us in this discovery that is gradually dawning upon the masses. The first part of that was going from Negro and colored to black. See, black suddenly one day became beautiful almost everywhere at once. In the passing through of those that were carrying this torch to illumine black America in the earlier period of black art, black conferences, black everything. But even then, black folks still tremble when they heard the word black, you know. So we were understanding the problem of our psyche being disturbed with a concept that had no cultural value or validity in our own psychology. It didn't mean anything except dark. On the subconscious level, it meant dead, ugly, inferior, frightening, absenteeism. That's, if you look in the dictionary at the word black, it will strain your generous intellect to appreciate that concept. You know, will strain it. So getting through this thin veil of haze about identity